Hello and welcome to the Goal Podcast, news and commentary from Gun Owners Action League, your leading voice for the Massachusetts gun owner. I'm Garrett across the table from Jeff. This time we got a special guest by remote via satellite. The wonders of modern technology. The man himself, John Petrolino, the Pen Patriot, is joining us. John.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
Oh, it's awesome having you here, man. Where are you right now? Are you at home?
I'm in my basement, so I mean, I don't know if it gets any more cliche than that, but yes,
So are we.
I'm broadcasting from my basement. I think one of the most important things that we need to get out of the way right now is the views and opinions expressed in the Goal Podcast do not necessarily reflect those of Goal, the organization. And I put that out there because, and I know you're going to do it later too, but I think you need it to hear it from me too, because I speak for me and not for Goal. And I don't speak for anyone I freelance for. So I just put that disclaimer out there.
You know what's funny is we have like John and Jim in the room, and we still say that. And we're like, if that doesn't reflect the views and opinions of Goal, and who does it reflect? You know,
It's perfect.
Who else would it be?
By means of introduction, so people know who you are. So you go by a bit of a pseudonym there, the Pen Patriot.
Well, Mo Palmer knows who you are, right?
Mo Palmer does know who I am.
But you are the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on basic gun safety and use, which is available on Amazon. I think I have my copy being delivered today. But you write for Bearing Arms, AmmoLand, Second Press, The Truth About Guns, more. You were named 2022's Media Figure of the Year by San Diego County Gun Owners PAC and Blogger of the Year by Second Amendment Foundation.
Man.
That's an impressive
Somebody
list.
did their homework
You're
today.
somebody.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yes, no, all the above, and thank you. And I'm a lifetime Goal member. I think that's important.
Above all else. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a freelance writer. I write for, as you mentioned, a number of 2A related websites and groups. News2a.com. I don't know if you got them on that list there too. Charlie Cook's a fellow contributor to news2a.com. They're a news site.
I read News2a
out of
there.
New Jersey.
Yeah, out of New Jersey. I've been reading them. There's some pretty good stuff there.
Yep. So I want to give those guys a big shout out. They're doing wonderful things out here. And of course, like I said, Bearing Arms, AmmoLand, The Truth About Guns, and whoever else will have me.
How old were you before you discovered that you could put crayon to paper and actually produce something that somebody will read? I mean, this is not your vocation, right?
This is my side hustle, and I've been writing well over 20 years. So, over 23 years, really. And working on that process has taken every bit of that 23 years. And if I'm not improving while I'm writing now today, then I just need to hang it up because, there's always something you can improve on. There's always something that you could learn. But my primary focus in the past was creative writing. So I was heavily involved in a literature scene. There was a bit of poetry involved. And my connection to Massachusetts is I went to Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and that's where I got my my license to be an engineer with the Merchant Marines. And I also got my degree in marine engineering. And I picked up a wife, too. I met my wife there. She
didn't come in your sea
she's
bag?
from Massachusetts. Yeah.
Right
I
on.
picked her up. Well, actually, it was funny because we were just kind of friends. We were buddies. And then, things changed one day. Let's just say it that way. But,
One thing
we were
led to
friends for a
another,
lot of
yeah.
years. So she knows all my skeletons.
Well, Cape Cod is a
It's not
magical
like I have
place.
Yeah, I didn't have to pretend like I'm a good person or anything. She knew who I was.
She knows the truth.
Yeah, that's right. God bless her.
Oh, right
And
on.
connection to guns. So you're also a firearms instructor, civil rights advocate, and really been, crushing amazing articles on Second Amendment topics from just everywhere.
Great stuff. Great output.
So thank you guys both, and thank you for reading my work. So yeah, I've been, I'd say, a lifelong gun guy, almost. It's not that I was raised in a household that was the gun owning household, even though we were a gun owning household. I just didn't really know it. And firearms and shooting, a lot of that came in the form of hunting and introduction through that with my father. At the same time, also getting involved in shooting sports through the Boy Scouts and those programs. So it was kind of like a parallel trajectory. I didn't really know much about our gun ownership or anything like that until later on, until I was in my teens, and I was like, oh my God, we're actual gun owners, with a capital G. Right. And then I became an adult. Yeah, I became an adult gun owner myself, a bit over a decade ago, well over a decade ago now, when I was on my way out the house and bought my first couple of handguns. And that kind of solidified things. I quickly realized that I needed to get some training, that, just because I had experience shooting shotguns and rifle shooting. I was on the rifle team at Mass Maritime, so I was a varsity rifle shooter. Right. Not that that means anything. I mean, I wasn't perfect. I was good enough, right?
Hey, it's not nothing.
Yeah, so I was on the rifle team, but then handguns and shooting pistols is a whole different ball of wax. And I developed a bunch of bad habits, and I was like, well, I do need to get training. So that's when I got into it, pretty hard, because once I started taking classes, I had some experience. And I remember one class I was taking with my brother-in-law, and he wasn't a gun guy. He's not a shooter. And when we got done with the class, he was shooting in the dirt. And I'm like, there's no reason why this guy should be shooting a 92 FS into the dirt after taking a class, and like, there's got to be a better way to teach this material. So I decided I'm going to become an instructor. I'm like, I got to become an instructor so that I can teach other people to not shoot in the dirt. And I had an instructor that I was working with on another class, and he was like incredibly encouraging. He's like, yeah, you should do this. Like, so finish my class and then go become an instructor. He gave me the blessing and everything. And I mentioned him too in my book. Yeah, Dom was one of my instructors there, and very encouraging. So there's that. And then there's the Second Amendment writing, which we talked about too. And that's back in 2015, I had answered like a cold call post, some website. I won't name who they are. They're still out there. They were looking for writers and content creators. And I just kind of answered their cold call. It was maybe like an ad on something somewhere. I don't know. I clicked on it and sent them an email. And they said, oh, what do you want to write about? And I gave him a rundown of what I was interested in. And he says, yeah, do it. I think you're passionate. You should do it. Send it to me. So I wrote this article, and the article was ridiculous. It was like over 6,000 words. So you're talking about like, yeah, it's like the New
Open
Yorker.
Up with a master's thesis.
This might be my only chance. So.
Exactly. So, and I went and I interviewed people. Like, I went all out. I mean, I really did. And I submitted it to this guy, and he never got back to me. Completely ghosted me. And I mean, completely.
He's like,
and it's like,
wow,
dude, if you don't like
if
you don't like my work, just tell me. Like, you're not going to make me cry. Listen, look at me. I've been rejected my whole life. I don't need, it's all right. So while it was going on, I was like, well, I want to do something with this article because I think it's an important article. It was. And so that's when I stumbled into, not stumbled into AmmoLand. I was already an AmmoLand like reader, but I realized that they were primarily, or I should say originally, located in New Jersey. I'm like, oh, that's, I reached out to Freddie Reel, and it's like, Freddie's like, yeah, he and I had a conversation. I said, listen, man, I wrote this piece. It's a little long. It was for so-and-so, but they're blowing me off. Do you want to take a look at it? And he said, I'll take a look at it. I said, why don't we give it a week and see if this guy gets back to me? He says, no problem. So I got back with him in a week, and I said, this guy didn't get back to me. I said, what do you think? He's like, you're right. It was long. He's like, but I'm going to publish it. So Freddie gave me my first, chance really at taking a crack at journalism and writing Second Amendment related content. And then from there, it was just from 2015 all the way through to 2020. I would put out pieces, at AmmoLand. I'm not going to say super regularly because it wasn't super regularly, but every so often. And he would always publish my stuff. And then I put out a piece with The Truth About Guns. And then when Cam Edwards had left NRA News and Ackerman McQueen, he became the editor-in-chief at Bearing Arms. And as soon as he took over the role over there at Bearing Arms, I hit him up and I said, hey, man, I says, are you looking for some content? He says, well, we might be looking for some, extra writers, some freelance guys, and, send me what you got. So I sent him a piece. It was about Mark Cheeseman. There was a lawsuit that went up to the Supreme Court. It was a carry case that went up to the Supreme Court in, I think it was like 2019. And must have been, yeah. It got denied certiorari, but it was a carry case out of New Jersey. And I wrote about that, and Cam, was kind enough to publish it. And then things really started to change for me in 2020. That's when Decoding Firearms came out, and it's a self-published book, so there's nobody behind it but me. And the way the book came about, it's kind of funny because it's not like I woke up one day and said, I'm going to write a book on how to use firearms or, shooting 101. That's not how this went down at all. I was editing somebody else's book, and, I saw a lot of issues with it. I saw things that I would do differently. And while I was doing that, I was also writing my own class, and I wanted material that I could put out there for people in my local gun club, so that it's not only just training, but it's also an evaluation of training. So, somebody could take a class, they could get the training, I'm saying air quotes here, the training that they need in order to join the gun club, because training's required. Mm-hmm. And then if their level of, knowledge is such that we could move on through things, it's like, let them teach it back to me, right? So I said to myself, I'm done editing this other dude's book. And I was like, you know what? I said, I wish I put together like a pamphlet or something to give to my students when they take my class. Now, mind you, my class, I got it completely blessed by like these trustees at the gun club. They're like, yeah, this is acceptable. We'll accept this as a form of training, right? So I'm like, okay, that's good. I was like, well, let me come up with a handout so I could give somebody. And what I like to do is called the coffee table university, right? So if you give your students something to take home with them, they put it on the coffee table, maybe they'll look at it, you get a little bit of extra information, and maybe their spouse or their significant other or their kids will look at it. And it's like, it's like Johnny Appleseeding the information, right?
NSA can check it out when they come to visit, and,
Exactly. So by the time I got done, listing out all of the things that I thought were really important for a pamphlet, for a handout, it came in the form of a 266-page book. And I'm like, okay, clearly this isn't a handout. This is a book.
Just like that 6,000-word article, right?
Right. So I accidentally became an author of a book on, firearm use. And I was like, well, go hard or go home, Subsequent to that, I did end up making a handout eventually. I used all of the core skeletal work from the book and all of the images and everything. And, because it's got like, I think over 115 original images, and it's all been edited and cropped and labeled. It's, I put a lot of time into it. So that's kind of the story of, these, parallel stories of me and advocacy and gun rights. And then, splash in there New Jersey. And this is something that you guys are now starting to deal with. And I'm sure we'll get into some of these things in a minute.
Yes.
But
you're from one of the other sex states. Yeah.
I've been a permit to carry holder for only 8 or 9 months. I got my permit in January.
Wow.
So yeah, that's when I was able to. So people in Massachusetts, they've had their permits to carry for decades. No problems. There was no blood in the streets. There was no issues. But New Jersey, we were not able to get our permits to carry at all. And that like many other patriots from New Jersey, energized me. And I remember going down to my police department. I was 21 years old, and I talked to the gal at the police department. I said, "Listen, I'd like to apply for my permit to carry." She said, "You can't." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't?" She goes, "You can't." I said, "It's my constitutional right. What do you mean I can't?" And she said, "Not in New Jersey, it's not." And I was like,
nice.
Wow. I was like, "Listen, you can't tell me that I can't apply. So give me the application packet." So then she gave me the application packet, and I took it and I tossed it in the trunk of my '83 Cutlass Oldsmobile Supreme, and that's where it sat. I never did anything with it. I'm like, I'm not applying, but I was getting that. I was getting that packet. Damn it!
It was like, damn it, she had to blow the dust off of it to give it to you, and
exactly.
Here, take this cobwebs off and give it to this idiot off the street.
And that always stuck with me. That left a bad taste in my mouth. And you tell somebody you can't do something and you're not allowed.
Yeah, well,
it's Jersey's fault that they've created so many energized advocates. Like you guys know, a lot of these big names in advocacy and activists, such as Tony Simon and Anthony Calandro. And there's like a lot of big time people in Jersey that fight very, very hard for the Second Amendment rights. And New Jersey did this to themselves, just like segueing into some of the things that you guys have going on in Massachusetts.
Oh yeah. And it's funny how telling people that they can't exercise their rights is a motivator for people to become activists, right?
Well, as of now, I mean, we're still waiting on updates for HD 4420 because they went into their
August break.
August break, where I guess nobody works in August.
I guess
however that works out.
But take August
it's a
off.
hot month.
Just take the month. Yeah. Right.
As we're waiting to see what they come back with, we were told that the bill as it was filed, even though they said that they would sign it if possible, was just a first draft.
Just a first draft, they said.
We're waiting for draft number 2 now to see where this goes, but.
So we're waiting to see what they're going to do with it in the new session. But yeah, I mean, taken as a whole, HD 4420, and we've got something like 12 or 13,000 lawn signs around the state right now, which is pretty impressive, I think.
It's getting harder and harder to drive around to work and with what I do, driving as much as I do without seeing those signs.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, we've said it here. We've said Jim and John, Mike. Everybody has said it. On this podcast and in the 2A media, I mean, it is like the worst piece of trash legislation that like anybody's ever seen, like anywhere. It's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. It's
very bad.
Horse, but
yeah, the only reason I wouldn't rate New Mexico higher right now is because there is no legislation. It's just executive.
The New Mexico
orders, which we'll talk about
that in a minute. Yeah, but yeah. So sure. I mean, the way that things are. There's a few like really crappy states. Jersey's one, obviously. Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, California, Hawaii. I guess Maryland is one of them.
Connecticut,
Rhode Island. Yep. Rhode Island's
Massachusetts Junior.
This country is more than half constitutional carry now, by state count and by land area. Damn it!
What is it? It's 27. Is it 27 permitless carry
states? I think it's just now 27.
It's 27. There are some states that now have what they call permitless carry. So I think it's a little variation of it, but
it's a variation
basically same idea of that you don't have to ask for a permission slip to
It's a Venn diagram. It's like you have the permitless carry bubble, then you have the constitutional carry, then you have the And then you know what? No term's ever going to make anybody happy. So we just call it the Vermont carry. Oh, my goodness. Let's really complicate things. But you're right. We're talking about more than half the landmass and more than half the states. And that's telling. And if you really look at the Bruin, we're going to call them, I guess, the Bruin response states or the Bruin states. You're talking about 8 states.
Yeah.
So you've got 42 other states that managed to keep their garbage together. And you have these outliers that are just being a bunch of children. Like, give me a break.
Temper tantrums. I mean, it basically boils down to being temper tantrums, right? They said, how dare you tell me that I can't trample on people's rights? Just for that, I'm going to go, way off the deep end. And it's basically what happened, and it's happened in New York right afterwards. Happened in California.
Well, I got to tell you guys, I'm very proud of all of the work that you are doing at Goal, the board members, the staff, and the rank and file members. Like, you guys are energized, and I'm seeing you guys energized in ways I've never seen you have to really be energized in the past. So it's like it never really.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen it at this level, and I'm proud of you guys. I think that this is excellent, and this momentum. So for the Goal members that are listening, you got to keep that momentum going, and the people that aren't Goal members that are listening because this is a cool podcast, you guys need to join. And if you don't want to join, that's okay. Send them money, because this fight is going to come to your yard too. Unless you're already in New York and New Jersey, like, I get it. We got our own battles, but like, adopt Massachusetts. They need help. New York needs help. New Jersey needs help. California, we know all of the usual suspects. So again, my hat's off to you guys. You guys are doing a tremendous job.
Well, we appreciate that. And, you know, I would much rather we didn't have to motivate like this. You know, I'd much rather it was us just doing our thing and being law-abiding people and not having, you know, the state constantly trying to trample on us. That would be my preferred state of being. But
part of that interstate camaraderie, I think, is, you know, what someone field tests in Los Angeles County becomes policy for California, which becomes policy for New York, which becomes policy for Massachusetts. So you get this trickle-down effect of they just keep trying all this stuff everywhere. So it's
4420 did not get developed in a vacuum, right?
It was a coordinated effort.
Sure, it was. I mean, we're 99% sure, not officially, but we're pretty sure here that it was written by the moms, and it was written by Bloomberg, and it was written by, you know, all of those, you know, Giffords and all of those special interest groups. But they didn't just come up with that stuff overnight. These are each one of these little things has been tried.
Claimed.
Yeah, right.
They claimed he wrote 146 that 146 pages in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, right.
After with big air quotes, an honest effort to listen to
after a listening
tour.
So that's
listen. I need to go on the record here, gentlemen. Michael Day is a dog-faced lying pony soldier, okay? I just need to put that out there. And
Corn Pop,
guys, keep peppering him. Call him on the phone. Keep calling him. Keep emailing. Keep the pressure on.
Ridiculous.
Speaker Mariano. Stay on him. Stay on Day. Stay on all your legislators. Be really polite to your legislators, but, you know, really let Day and Mariano know what you think of them. They want to hear from you.
Away with this crap, you know.
I guarantee they want to hear from you. Trust me.
I'm sure they love it.
I'm sure they love hearing from us.
Well, one of the things we wanted to have you on is, you know, following the firearms industry. So we thought we would go through, you know, kind of some of the news stories that we were going to go through and have you join in, and I want to hear what you think.
Current events, yeah. So usually we lead off the podcast with doing news, but, you know, since you're here and we got like this world-class 2A journalist on, we're going to get your thoughts on some of this stuff.
I appreciate. So wait, do we have like segue music? Do we do the?
I don't know. Garrett edits that stuff in when and where he feels necessary.
And hear the news with John Petrolino,
which we got. So there's a safety bulletin out from Sig Sauer.
No,
everyone's favorite.
No, come on.
So safety bulletin. They issued a statement. Sig Sauer is reminding consumers about the risks associated with the use of light-bearing holsters, which have been involved in a number of alleged unintentional discharge incidents.
Wait, but light-bearing holster? They mean holsters designed for weapon-mounted lights?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So it's the cut down that they're... All right. Okay.
So they say due to the large openings in these holsters designed around the trigger to accommodate the size of the bezel of the light, it creates a vulnerability because fingers or foreign objects may be able to enter these holsters and contact the trigger. So
they felt the need to say this. Why?
Well, I think the most kind of recent Sig Sauer P320 issue that that made the news. The claim was essentially Sig Sauer saying that Safariland holsters aren't safe, and everybody else saying it's the Sig P320 that, you know, has an issue with going off when people don't
They're
want
like,
it to.
no, it's the holster. No, it's the gun.
The one thing that, and I've seen some of the footage of some of the signifying. I've seen some of the footage of this, and is this is usually something. This is an occurrence when we're holstering and unholstering, or is this at random? Because I think I saw one video that was supposed to be at random. Is that right?
I think this is referring to holstering.
So
Okay.
this most recent one was in a police department, and they were kind of wrangling this suspect from
that's
kind of the
right. Yeah,
lobby to the back.
That's right.
And the one officer reached down and kind of grabbed his legs, and his foot hit the holster,
and they had
or jostled, something on the belt, and the pistol discharged.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Okay. I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that was
a
a
holster or something like that.
people are going through frame by frame, and
That's right.
The fans of SIG, or the people in the SIG camp, are saying it is definitive proof that the gun was not in the holster properly, and something must have been in there, because there's no way that this gun could have gone off on its own. Then the other side of the camp says, if anything, you can't see shit in this video. So who knows?
So, I do remember this case, and it was telling to me that the agency refused to send the gun back to SIG for investigation.
There you go. So I was just going to say that, if I recall, and this is where things get so fantastical. Like we're opening up the door in the wardrobe, and like we're going into another world, right? So you have this individual or organization that's like, hey, this was faulty, right? They're making a claim.
Yes.
And they're saying the fault is on SIG, right? And SIG's like, oh, send it to us and we'll investigate. Like, that's really nice of SIG. Like, they want to investigate.
They want to get to the bottom of it.
That. And like, that's what I would do. I would take what I consider evidence, and I would give it to somebody that I was, making a claim against. That makes perfect sense. And the other side of the equation is, no, like, we want to see what went wrong with this thing. Send it to us. So, like, I don't think we're ever going to be able to have an amicable meeting in the middle unless, like who's going to do this?
So
like,
we're going to send the gun back to you with all new parts and say, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with this gun.
Right. So, like, what kind of level of arbitration could you even have? Like, I don't even know.
Well, there's certainly two parts to it. So I think one, you're definitely going to have a bias.
It is interesting that they'll release a statement like this, though, out of the blue.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit courageous to say that Safariland does not make sufficiently safe holsters. But there's roughly 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States. About 1,000 of them use Sig Sauer pistols as their primary handgun. Just shy of 12,000 departments issue a different.
Oh, here we go.
manufacturer's gun.
This is the Jeff Loves Glock part of the show.
Not making the argument for Glock. What I'm making the argument for is that if light-mounted holsters were the safety issue that the claim is,
then
I
it
would
should
expect
be the same safety issue for other models of guns.
I would expect
Yeah,
a
sure.
kind of relatively even distribution, proportionate to what is available on the market.
Yeah. So Glock isn't coming out, or Smith & Wesson's not coming out saying, hey, be careful with these holsters.
I mean, I have my biases. I have my favorite guns. Absolutely. But is not the Glock 19 like the most popular law enforcement firearm like on
in
the
the
planet?
world? Yeah.
All right,
By a
so-
fair margin. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a horse in this race. I own a SIG. I love my SIG. I think it's a great firearm. I mean, I don't have a horse in this race. So this is just what's going on. I just find it hysterical that everybody's flummoxed why X person won't send their firearm to SIG to look at, and like why we're scratching our heads over this concept. Like, no, they're doing the right thing.
Well,
They're
yeah,
offering to look at it.
But I also kind of agree
Okay.
with Sig too. It's like, so you're going to be investigating your own negligent discharge of your
Right.
own thing.
Well,
and no, it's definitely not going to be your officer
That's
who
a
might have.
fair point, right? Is the police
Yeah.
department going to come out and say, no, totally, it was our guy. He's responsible for his own
Two
negligence.
foxes
what I'm
arguing
saying.
over who watches the
Who's
hen
going
house.
to be the moderator?
Yeah, right.
Nobody can mediate.
We need to
this
bring him on the
appropriately.
show.
Right. Oh.
Which-
All right, talking more about gear. Liberty Gun Safes. Liberty gun safes. Right about August the 30th.
So let's go through
background.
Let's go through the facts of it.
Yeah, and then we'll get into the fun
nuts
part.
and bolts, and then
I think that's important because
right,
we talked about this pre-show a little bit. So go ahead.
So right about August the 30th, 34-year-old gentleman by the name of Nathan Earl Hughes of Fayetteville, Arkansas, was arrested by the FBI on misdemeanor and felony charges relating to his presence at the U.S. Capitol on January the 6th. Pursuant to that arrest, the warrant was executed on his residence, and this is important to me anyway, but the residence contained a Liberty gun safe. In order to access the contents of the safe, the FBI agents executing the search warrant contacted Liberty Safes, said, hey, we got a warrant, and can you let us into the safe? Liberty Safe said, all right, we have a internal practice, company protocol says that if somebody calls us with a warrant, we give them the admin code, the backup code, the manager code, or whatever it is for the safe. They gave it to law enforcement. Law enforcement went into the safe and did their thing. Now, there has been significant pushback. Anybody who listens to this podcast has certainly heard about this by now. So they defended their practice of having manager codes to begin with. Liberty did, okay? And then they defended their practice of giving said, manager codes to law enforcement as an internal company protocol, when law enforcement requests it. And then a day or two later, they came back and changed their policies. They said, now we're going to, give people the ability, show them how to delete those manager codes. And then next time, we won't give the manager codes to anybody until, an actual court order comes through for it. So I've had this discussion with people. For me, I have a problem that they have manager codes at all. Further than that, I have a problem with any old law enforcement agency calling up and saying, hey, we got a warrant for the house. Can you let us in the safe? And they go, sure. Liberty Safe's one job, literally their whole business model, is to keep people out of the stuff that they make.
It's in the name of the company. Safe.
Right.
Oh, Liberty Safe too.
Right, Liberty Safe.
Right.
You literally have one job, and as soon as somebody calls up and says, "Hey, give me the combo," you say, "Sure, no problem, pal."
So I looked into Liberty's practice. So what they do is every safe they produce has a unique factory set code into it.
A lot of times it's what they call a manager code.
Yes, but either way, code that will let you get into the safe.
Yeah.
And the press release from Liberty Safe said, and this is their press release, as a courtesy to our customers, Liberty Safe has long adhered to industry standards by maintaining a secure database of factory set combinations.
Yada, yeah.
They said their protocol is to provide access codes to law enforcement if a warrant grants them access to the property or to the safe. After receiving a request, we receive proof of the valid warrant, and only then do we provide them with an access code.
Those are two different issues there. The fact that they have a backdoor code, I'm not a fan of, but if they do, they sure as hell shouldn't be giving it over to every cop that calls them up and asking for it.
Well, it's not uncommon for systems to have backdoor accesses for all sorts of reasons. It's one of the...
Whatever. That's actually another separate discussion that the marketplace can handle.
That is...
but
that's where, I think, the shopper has to do a little bit of research into their product that they're buying and understand that comes along with it.
Yes.
Exactly. So how well advertised was this fact? So, like, if you go and buy any other kind of safe or locking device, and let's say there's a key, like a backup key or a primary key, usually there's a number on that. So you could take that number and you could write to or call the company that produced that locking device and say, hey, I need more keys. So we could sit here and make the argument that there is no difference to me being able to get extra keys, right, to there being a backdoor into a digital only or digital entry only safe, right?
Yeah.
So we can have that debate.
Sure.
But again, how upfront was or is Liberty about this when people bought these products? Because the gentleman who had his rights trampled upon, and that's opinion, right? Because I'm sure whatever he was charged with X number of years after whatever allegations he got was so important that they had to get into his gun safe, right? I'm sure it's not going to hold like real constitutional muster. I don't mean kangaroo court on what may or may not be going on in the judicial system dealing with, we'll call them these people, right?
Yeah, right. They're handing down murder sentences to these people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you got people basically have a complete lack of habeas corpus that are like thrown away without, you know, the key. You know, speaking of Liberty Safe, right? There is no key for these people. Key? Ironically, if Liberty Safe was in charge of those prison cells, it might be better for some of these guys if you just wrote and said, "Hey, we need the override code, no problem."
You got it. You got it.
You know, so, like, my issue with this is that Liberty did not get the warrant like directly. Like, Liberty didn't get a court order telling them, "Thou shalt surrender thy information."
Exactly.
And God help me for saying this and complimenting Apple, but you know, Apple has a very strong privacy policy when it comes to people's phones. And they're like, no way, no how. You're not going to see the wizard. I'm not giving you that information. You're on your own.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be under court order for them to surrender that. And I'm not even sure. I think Apple's like, go figure it out on your own, you know.
Apple has a number of times said, fine, we'll see you in court. You know,
there's a couple of differences between the Apple situation and this one. So I had to go back and like blow the cobwebs off of like the 2 law classes I took in college to make me an expert again. But there's been a lot of like back and forth about the scope of everything. So generally speaking, if you know, when a search warrant is granted for a property, it's usually very, very broad in what they can search. It's your property, anything you have access to, your vehicles, the curtilage of the property. Like it's really, really broad. What tends to get narrow and specific is what they're looking for. Some people say they needed a warrant. Some people say they needed a subpoena. The difference between the two is that a warrant grants law enforcement the ability to do something, where a subpoena compels you to provide something to like the system.
Yes.
So I think Liberty's thought is, you know, do we really want to get in a headbutting contest with the feds over this
when they're going to our customers? I don't know.
Right. You know, hey, it's Liberty's. It's
why would we want to do that?
Well,
I'm with you.
I had this discussion with Mike Harris as well. All right. And he went to law school. The guy knows his stuff, certainly more than I do. And for my part, even if Liberty understood themselves to be, you know, compelled under order to allow access to the safe, and I argue actually strenuously that they're not. They should have told the feds to go pound sand. And for the people that say, well, they're going to get in there either, you know, one way or the other, it's better that they get the code than crack the safe open. It's like, you know what? You leave that to the customer, the guy that owns it, who is the actual subject to that search warrant. If he wants to clam up and have the cops drill his safe out, well, then that's the way it'll be. Okay, it's not for Liberty Safe to decide. All right, we're just going to shortcut the process here. They asked real nicely, so again, we'll just give them the code.
But it was within Liberty Safe's terms and conditions and everything else that is available for people to read.
I don't know, man.
They're permitted to do it. So
permitted to destroy their own brand.
I'm saying that they did not break the law by providing that information.
No, and I didn't argue that they did.
People are trying to claim.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I don't argue that they did anything illegal. But go ahead, John.
Right, there's nothing. We should definitely in what I would say is like kind of immoral, right? I think this is you betrayed your customer, right? And I think that, you know, they should get the dilly treatment, if you know what I'm saying. Dilly, right? You make bad decisions, corporate and dilly.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
So ideally, what they should have said was, hey, come back with a warrant, send us a subpoena, and we'll give you the information.
Or they do what Apple does and say, we'll see you in court.
Well,
goodbye.
So the difference between Liberty Safe and Apple was that the FBI was pushing Apple to create code for the federal government to backdoor into people's phones, which Apple said you can't force us to do. Apple didn't have that as an existing service, so therefore there was nothing for the government to execute a warrant against.
There's that, but they have also had direct requests from law enforcement to provide access to phones on a number of occasions, and Apple has said, hell no, we're not doing it.
They asked Apple to hack a phone for them.
The bottom line of this Liberty Safe thing for me comes in their retraction the day after, when they said, okay, in the future, we're going to demand that everybody have, a subpoena or whatever, we need a court order. That to me says that they have admitted right out loud that they were not doing the maximum that they could have done to protect their customers in the first place. That to me is the most damning thing of all. As far as that, like I said before, they have literally one job, and that's to protect, their customers' shit. That's it.
Well, Liberty and the safe. Dilly dilly. That's it. That's the rally call. Dilly dilly. I'm not necessarily against the idea that there could be a back door into a safe. I'm not necessarily against that. Number one. Number two, I think if you're going to have that, this should be based off of volunteering that. Like, so the owner of the safe should be able to self-destruct that and say, nope, I want this deleted. Okay, so you could delete that out of the system. If the owner is so inclined to say, no, I want to leave that there for whatever reason, something happens to me, my family can't get into it, they want to get in there because I'm dead, I'm incapacitated, there's an Armageddon, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we need to get into the safe. So I want to leave that back door open. So like there's that element of it. So should there, I think the back door should be there if on an elective basis. At no point ever should Liberty or any company. So I don't want to make this about just Liberty. Any safe company, no one should be just willfully surrendering access to that safe. For all we know, this guy could have wanted the safe broken into and drilled, and maybe he had injury claim for when they break the safe open. There's a lot of different motivations here. And maybe Liberty robbed him of a future injury claim, because I don't know about you, but I think I would be heavily involved in tort if somebody came to my house, gang busted in, and did some unconstitutional stuff. And if you robbed me from the ability to sue you over my $2,000 safe, I'd be pretty upset. In addition to, you got in it without a fight. Make them work for it. Get in there. I want to see the jaws of life.
Right. Make the best.
To be fair, though, all of these safes, and they're great, and all of these safes, a lot of them are awesome. But honestly, all you need to do is tip them over and get a cutoff wheel, and you can cut them open and get in them. So anybody that's a little bit of brute force and you got some tools, you're in them in 20 minutes. Yeah. Sorry, but that's just the reality.
Well, sure, but again, it's left up to the customer.
Make them work for it.
Make them work for it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not up to Liberty to just go, oh, okay, well, since you guys are such pals of ours, we'll just give it to you. As far as I'm concerned, they have gone a long way towards damaging their brand doing this by not doing the maximum. Okay. I said 100 times, their only job is to protect their clients, right? And they failed to do so. And like John said, they willingly gave it up. They were like, here, take it, without even working for it. So as far as I'm concerned, they've damaged their brand. Beyond repair, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But
well, I think the only saving grace that they'll have is, it's not like people buy gun safes a lot.
Yeah,
it's not. People are buying. People
Ted
are buying.
Nugent may be able to go blow up his Liberty safe, but most of us can't afford to do that.
People aren't buying gun safes the way they're buying other consumables, where a boycott would be a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, people aren't going to be making the symbolic purchase of a Liberty safe just to destroy it, right? Because that's
dilly dilly.
All right, moving on. What's next?
Okay, so New Mexico.
What's going on? Is something going on in New Mexico?
I'm going to start this off with a quote. Thomas Jefferson: "Tyranny is defined as that which is legal for the government but illegal for the citizenry."
Okay.
Friday, New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham issues an emergency public health order suspending Second Amendment rights, suspending the open and permitted concealed carry of firearms in Bernalillo County and Albuquerque for 30 days.
So I don't believe, and I've read the Constitution a number of times, I have not yet found the part where it says none of this counts as long as there's a public health emergency. Maybe I missed that part.
So I didn't read the full order, right? So we have this tyrant, or just my opinion, not the views of Goal or anybody. We have this tyrant that's decided to shred the Second Amendment in areas in their state. But here's my question: at what penalty?
Okay, so so I watched the entire 1 hour garbage press conference she did, and we'll get into the penalty stuff. Now, they do have what they consider to be compromised carve-outs. This does not affect private property that is owned or controlled by the person who owns the firearm. It does not apply to the premises of a licensed dealer or gunsmith or while at a properly licensed range or sport shooting competition. At any point traveling between any of these places, the firearm must be in a locked container and locked with a firearm safety device that renders the firearm inoperable.
So I've also read Heller.
Which is the entire Heller case.
Right. I've also
Can't
read
let
Heller.
Jeff talk. I'm just going to jump on him on all of it. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure that Heller also did
information
not
out
have
there.
a public health emergency exception. But, maybe I missed that part of that decision too. You're biting your nails over there, John.
New Mexico's law, like on a base level, is that the base law?
No.
The firearms being just transported shall be transported in this
No,
manner?
this is entirely a fabrication.
This is an invention of the political hierarchy in New Mexico. This is the governor saying, no, COVID has shown us that we can do pretty much anything that we want as long as we can back it up with a public health emergency. Therefore, I hate guns, so we're going to, completely cancel the Second Amendment within these cities.
I'm sure this governor has the same idiotic people in their Rolodex that Michael Day does. So let's not kid ourselves. There's got to be outward pressure. This wasn't just dreamt up. It wasn't. It couldn't have been. I mean, because this is just idiotic. And this, a test ground, maybe New Mexico was the best place to test it because you have this balance between ideologies and whatnot, because it really is kind of a interesting place.
It can kind of fit in the purple category a little bit.
You do bring up a good point there.
But all kidding aside, though, listening to some of her rationale and some of the statements that she made in this press conference, I really think she is that stupid. Like, I really do think she's...
Well, you got to get an idiot to do these things too, Jeff. You can't just get somebody that's intelligent that can think on their own.
So
that might read the bill that they were handed. Like, I didn't know that was in the bill. Well, you didn't read it.
The useful idiot also serves a purpose, right?
I believe, and you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, there was a sheriff that spoke out against this, wasn't there? At least one?
Yep, and she basically said it's the state police that are going to handle it, so she's taking it out of their jurisdiction. Now, they asked for clarification. What are the penalties going to be? And that she referred to a misdemeanor. Essentially, like, you are now creating criminal law outside of the legislative process.
Yeah, right. Who needs to write laws? We'll just create crimes out of thin air.
This is what she says for public record. She goes, the reason I did it is because it's lawful in New Mexico to have firearms. The point is this: we better have a debate about what's necessary to reduce the number of particularly legal firearms.
John, you're rubbing your temples over there. You're going, oh my God, I see face palm happening.
By the time this rolls out, this might be behind us. Like, honestly, there's 4 lawsuits, I think, that were launched, I believe, over the last 2-3 days.
In the last 48 hours, there's been
the ink on the order is not even dry yet, and it's already being challenged in court. Yeah,
but in the last 48 hours, there's also been public protest, people open carrying in the city of Albuquerque.
Oh yeah,
as they I don't want to say should, but yeah, I like to hear about that kind of thing. Let me put it that way. So I think that this is obviously it's ripe for challenge, and not only that, this governor is setting herself up for impeachment. I mean, honestly, I mean, like this is
I would hope
her
so.
talking about her oath of office and how that's also not absolute.
Yep.
Like what?
So-
It's an oath. Like I don't understand
So
how you
I
can
got-
say that.
Oh, I
That's
got
the
it here
whole
for you.
idea
Do
behind
you
the
have that
oath.
quote?
So she was asked directly, you took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you can't exercise your carry license? And she goes, that is if there is with one exception, and that is if there is an emergency, and I've declared an emergency. I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute.
Right. And I hear a bunch of broken glass in the background.
Right.
Goose stepper.
How do you say that publicly and not be let off in chains?
She's sitting in a
mean,
room full
that's-
of law enforcement officers.
Right, and none of them like hooked
Not a
her up
single
and
one
threw her
of
in the
them.
back of a squad car.
Not a single one corrected her. But this is where I think the lunacy comes in, because they asked her outright, do you really think criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque for the next
She
month?
said no.
And she flat out, no. She says, how many of you have been told by a business or a citizen that they call or they ask for help and no one would show up or do anything about a crime, particularly even a violent crime? Well, I hear it every day. So if this encourages the public to help us create a safer environment, I'm in.
Jesus, she can't even string a coherent sentence together.
She's openly
I'm
saying that the
sorry.
police cannot come to help you.
I'm sorry, not sorry that you are not able to uphold your duties as the chief executive officer of your state. Literally the person that's in charge of policing and the execution of the laws.
Right?
So all you're doing is indicating that you have failed, and because your failure or your inability to do what needs to be done, you're usurping all of your constituents' rights. Excuse me, you've turned them into subjects. I mean, this is ridiculous.
She sits there and says, yeah, I'm committing a crime. Yeah, I'm disregarding my oath. Yeah, I'm violating the Constitution. But, as long as nobody sues me or challenges me on it, I'm going to do it anyway. So, welcome to my dictatorship.
And she openly said that even though that this is in place for 30 days, she has every intention to continue to extend it. Because in the public health order, it says this is a public health emergency of unknown duration.
Here we go, right? COVID rears its head again. Whether or not you think that all that stuff was a good idea, one thing that it has absolutely done is shown the government what they can get away with.
Now, she was asked...
Oh, it's emboldened tyrants.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you say it's public health, you can do anything you want.
Now, my favorite question from this Q&A, because I think it really speaks to the totality of what this woman is planning. They asked her, let's say this month goes exactly as you hope. You win any challenges, it goes through, you get the data, it looks good for the whole thing. What's the plan after that? And she said, if the public emergency and the epidemic is over, I bet it's not over in 30 days. I would guess this group would ask us to identify additional strategies and to re-execute the order. She goes, I think it's going to have some marked impact as well, and if it doesn't, something else is coming. So she's saying,
yeah, right.
This is for 30 days. I have every intention of this not being resolved in 30 days. It's going to keep going, and they're going to keep doing this. So,
John, earlier on, you started a thought when we started to allude to this being a planned thing. I try not to do the tinfoil hat thing too much.
I heard some rumors, right, that the power brokers in D.C. are looking to award whoever is able to do a workaround the New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin decision. Now, one could sit here and argue that, New Mexico is not involved in this race. It's only these 8 states really that have a horse in this race. But no, this is a tyrant that's maybe seeing an opportunity that's connected to the rest of the people that are pulling the strings, the same ones that are talking to Joe Danielson in New Jersey and Governor Murphy in New Jersey and Michael Day in Massachusetts. And it's the same people that are trampling our rights. There's 2, 3, organizations. Really, there's 3 organizations that are driving that bus. It's Moms Demand, it's Brady, also formerly known as Handgun Control Inc., and it's Giffords. I mean, that's it, and Everytown, and it's all Bloomberg. Okay, so
all
you got
funded
4
by
groups,
Bloomberg.
let's call it.
Yeah.
You could distill that into one because, the booster seat boy is behind them both,
It's like they might all be different teams, but they're playing in the same league.
Yeah, and they're all getting paid by the same bank accounts.
Exactly. So I really would not be shocked if we saw more brazen behavior like this out of tyrants. And that's why nipping this in the bud as soon as possible is like incredibly important.
To me, this is such a blatant, like outright overreach. This is in concept, this goes beyond even like some of the temper tantrums that we're seeing at the state level in response to Bruin. This is like, they're saying, oh, it's still constitutional for us to do this stuff, so we're just going to like work around it. This is, no, I know it's not constitutional, but I'm going to do it anyway, and screw you. So
and you could see the progression.
Yeah.
You could see it. It's like New York did what they did for their law response. Then you had like New Jersey quickly thereafter. They kind of ratcheted up a couple of things.
Yep.
Massachusetts said, hold my beer. And now you have New Mexico out of nowhere declaring that you can't, carry a firearm at all. Like,
declaring a police state against the Constitution. So this thing in New Mexico, to me, should not only be shot down, by the courts, by what they should not only like laugh it out of court and tell her to get bent, but there ought to actually be some kind of ramification for her personally on this, because this is,
well, she's openly saying that
beyond
she's
the pale here. This is impeachable.
Purposely misusing her authority in that position to do something that she also admits is unlawful.
Jeff, you seem very unemotional and very uncommitted to this. I want to know, how do you feel? Tell me about your feelings, Jeff.
See, the fact that this woman wasn't flat out arrested by all of those police officers in there, during this whole press conference saying, oh, not everybody agrees to this and not the people at this table, and they asked about who did or didn't agree with it, and to see all of the law enforcement officers sit there listening to someone abuse their authority and break the law in front of them, and trying to give political answers, and it's about politics. This is a person who is screwing with people's fundamental rights to self-defense in a city where she openly says criminals are going to come after you regardless of what we do, openly says that people are complaining that the police can't get to them even for violent crimes, and she's admitting that that's correct, and then saying that her best idea for the whole thing is to make sure that you can't protect yourself and the only recourse you have is to keep reporting crimes to the department that can't service you. I just, at this point, like, I'm kind of out of my emotional gas tank is low to sit and listen to a politician not even try to lie anymore and just say, yeah, I know this whole thing is garbage. I know the whole thing is illegal. I know that I'm abusing my authority, and nobody's going to do a damn thing about it.
So
it's the same thing when the ATF marches in front of Congress and says, yep, we're creating all new laws willy-nilly because we feel like it.
That thing is definitely a machine gun.
And every politician sits up there and asks, they get their 5 minutes, which 4.5 minutes of it is a speech about the other side of the aisle, and they never do anything to hold anyone accountable. So for me, it's like, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked anymore. And it's just like, this is the world we live in, where our elected leaders are sitting there going, yep, right to your face, I'm breaking the law, I'm screwing you over, I'm taking your rights away because I want political points. I want my name in the news, and I want to get some hype in the party, and I want to make a name for myself. So we're going to get people killed. We're going to undermine the foundation of this country, and, because someone wants to be more popular. It's just...
Well...
It's
idiots like that should stick to cat videos.
I mean, I can't imagine the thought process of someone sitting there and saying, this area is so violent that the police can't even respond to all the violence, and our number one plan is to make sure you have no way of defending yourself. Wow. And that's why I started with that quote, because it's perfectly fine for her stormtroopers to march through that state and arrest anybody they want with guns.
Yeah. Go ahead, John. What are you biting back?
Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's like saying, hey, there's a high likelihood that this area is going to catch on fire, so we better take away all the fire extinguishers. I mean, that's the same saying.
All right, those are the big news stories that we had to talk. So now let's get started with the podcast. Oh, John, what's doing in New Jersey? What's going on in your neck of the woods? Let's get off of this news nonsense.
Things are pretty quiet right now. There's one of the provisions of the law that came into effect, or is going to come into effect. So the law that was changed, our quote unquote carry killer or Bruin response law, added different training requirements in order to get a permit to carry. So people that got their permits over the last, year, I'd say, we're in September now. So year and a month, I think people started getting them as early as August. Now have to requalify or retrain by, I believe, October 1st. So there's
by October 1st?
Yes, by October 1st. So this was in the law that was signed in December. The standards came out only back in, I believe, July. The standards came out in July.
Nice.
And then those standards are like, we're calling them the John Wick standards. Like, it's the exact same qualification for the retired police officers that have had, a full career of policing behind them and a full career of firearms training. So they're having timed shooting from a holster up to 20 yards, and kneeling, and you might just throw some rolls in there or whatever. But anyhow,
right, Jesus.
Yeah, so this so people that are permit to carry holders have to comport to this new training dynamic and recertify before October 1st. Now, something that I did notice, and I wrote about this last month, and I picked up on this, was through a press release. So our challenge, and I know you guys are probably not as versed because you're dealing with your own fires, our challenge to our carry killer is already up at the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And the federal court, the federal judge, Marie Bum, administratively terminated the case at that level because everything got appealed all the way up to the Third Circuit. Now, this was just predicated on 2 temporary restraining orders and 1 preliminary injunction. So there's a preliminary injunction that's a very serious, I think, 100-plus page document explaining why the law should be enjoined. Well, when it got to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, they stayed a portion of the injunction. So now there's parts of the law that came back into effect.
My God.
Where it's like, you got to be kidding me. So,
yikes.
Anyhow, that's all supposed to have oral arguments on October 25th. I'm planning on being there in Philadelphia. I'm supposed to go.
Nice.
At least I'm planning on it. And I was there for the preliminary injunction hearing in Camden, New Jersey, in Judge Marie Bum's court. Well, what came out, anyhow, to bring this full circle, a press release came out that the Association of New Jersey Rifle Pistol Clubs did request for the suit to be reopened, the case to be reopened on a federal level. And it looks like they're going to maybe sue over more elements, maybe this training. I mean, I can't say for sure, but it's been reopened, and Marie Bum opened it. So she said, we'll unadministratively terminate it. So that's what we're kind of dealing with in New Jersey. Right now, legislatively, everything is silent. It's the summer, but I'm sure they'll be back with vengeance. I think they're emboldened, but I also think they're scorned and PO'd about this whole process. And something that I just covered recently was a TikToker named Evo Joe. If you go over to Bearing Arms, or you go look for me on Bearing Arms, so like bearingarms.com/author/John Petrolino, or go to my link tree at jpetrolino III. My link tree's got a lot of stuff. But anyhow, you can follow the story where this TikTok personality got pulled over, and the officer didn't know the law and called into his sergeant. And the sergeant also didn't know the law, gave him wrong advice about the law because the law was enjoined. So, and it was enjoined for several months. It's not like they can say that this is all super new. Like, this injunction's been old news, and even the stay is still, I think, from July. Regardless, that's plenty of time for information to get out in a world where you press a button and you've got a cat video, right?
Yeah, they really have no excuse.
Exactly. So I just recently did a 4-part series on this TikTok personality that got pulled over, and I got the body cam and the dash cam footage of the officer and the stop. And I have to say, I do have to hand it to the officer. He thought that this guy was breaking the law, and he still used it as a teachable moment, even though he was teaching him the wrong stuff. That's actually a big step for a state like New Jersey, because usually we're donating to give, send, goes for these types of people because they're getting arrested, you know?
Yeah. Right. Clap him in
so
irons
happens
and figure it
that
out later.
This guy had the law on his side. So, all right, he would have won in court, but you've already lost. If you're in court, in my opinion, you've already lost.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Oh, for
you
sure.
Don't want to be in court.
Yeah.
You
Even
know.
if you win, you've lost.
So that's what's going on in New Jersey. And also the state police and the attorney general's office. I reached out to them for comment saying, hey, what kind of guidance are you giving these police departments? And I got nothing but silence. So I'm going to have to fill out some FOIA requests or open public record requests with them. And now I want to see it. Now you're not going to, finagle your way out of it. I want to know what guidance is going out there. And I know the answer is bupkis.
Man, oh man, it continues.
Yeah, that's New Jersey right now.
We ask a couple of questions of all of our guests. So spousal approval, budget not being an issue. What's your dream gun?
Chicago typewriter.
Oh, we get that a lot.
All day, every day.
All day, every day.
All day, every day.
Yeah,
that's it. That's what I want. I mean, granted, I can't own it because I live in New Jersey. But if I were to get a so-called assault weapons permit or whatever hoops you have to jump through in New Jersey, that's what I would want. I would want a Tommy gun. And I'm not, and here's the thing, I'm not like a full auto fanatic, right? Like, I'm not like, I've shot a Tommy gun in full auto. I thought it was cool, right? It's not like, oh, I need to have this, but yeah. I think it would be awesome. I think it would be a lot of fun to have one.
But, with an accent like yours, they should just give you a Tommy gun.
We'll change it to the Jersey typewriter. Not all of us have chowder in our mouths and moxie in our veins, man.
Moxie's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like black licorice and gasoline.
Yeah, but you'll get some hate mail for that.
Probably.
That's a diehard group of fans.
Great. Oh, it's disgusting. Other than 2A News, what does John Petrolino like to do with his time? You're a merchant marine officer. You're an engineer. Sorry, rather. You're an engineer in the merchant marine.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's it. So that's your side gig.
Yeah. No. Right. In charge of operations and maintenance of all the machinery on a ship. I'd sit here and tell you it's really boring, but I don't know if you would accept that. It's kind of boring. It's another day at the office. I mean, you've been doing it for so long. I'm like, that's my job. So
yeah, sure. That's what pays the bills,
things going. Yep. And then as far as leisure time, just spending time with the fam, hitting up theme parks. And once I had this hybrid trip where I was able to pull Charlie Cook in on a family vacation, and I got him to Disneyland. So we'll have to talk about that. Hat tip to Charlie Cook. Actually, hat tip to all of my Massachusetts Patriots out there. You guys are all awesome. John and Jim and Angie and Mike in the office, you guys are great. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Dalp. We all love the Dalp over there. The Dalp, crushing it. Then there's the Bay State King of the Glocks. I have to give him a massive shout out, and also to our sister in arms. They're killing it as well. And then there's Mo. Mo is also crushing it.
Mo is Mo, and you're just some jerk that she knows.
That's it. Just some jerk that she knows. And if I'm missing anyone, I really apologize. I love all my Massachusetts people, and you guys are killing it. I love you all. I love you all.
How did you become exposed to the Massachusetts two-way world? I mean, you came up here for Mass Maritime Academy, And is that it? It just happened while you were up here for those few years, and or what? How did
I
how
tried
did
to
you
buy a
connect?
box of shotgun shells. I'm like, oh, I got to go, and I'm going on a hunting trip. I'm like, oh, let me go to Walmart. I'll buy some shotgun shells because even in New Jersey, this isn't a big deal. Like you just go with a driver's license.
Yeah.
But not in Massachusetts. God forbid you buy ammunition from, if you're not a resident of the state, you magically can't have the ammo. So,
You can't even buy ammo with a
you're-
non-resident permit.
Yeah.
You can't even, right?
Nope.
You can't. If you have a
Yikes.
non-resident permit, you can't buy ammo. It's
Unbelievable.
ludicrous. But even that's not what brought me into the Massachusetts gun scene. I'm just a kindred spirit, and I feel for you guys. I'm up in Massachusetts very often, and the thought of being able to take my firearm even to free states that are north of you, I can't really do that if I'm going to spend the night in Massachusetts really legally. So now I'll get my non-resident permit, which,
Hopefully.
God forbid we have that, because, Michael Day wants to take that away as well.
Yep. Right on. So how'd you get
Yeah.
the name Pen Patriot?
Do you know the story?
I believe that I do, but I want you to say it. I want you to tell it.
So this was 100% John Green. The Dr. Green gave me the moniker Pen Patriot, and he did it in a Facebook post. Like, I just saw it, and I'm like, ooh, that's good. And I'm taking it, and I'm going to use it. And it's like, it's cool because somebody else gave me the nickname. It's not like I have to be like, I gave myself a cool
Right.
nickname, Like, he gave me this cool nickname. He referred to me as the Pen Patriot. And then a little over a year later, what was I able to do? I was able to present him with a copy of my trademark documents, and I do believe they're hanging up in the goal office.
Nice. Yeah. That's so cool. That's
Speaking
cool.
of which, I just got a text message from John.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so we were down at Cape Gunworks with Toby
Yep.
for a charity shooting competition, and John was the highest scoring individual shooter for the day. Won himself a
Good
Vortex
Lord.
optic.
Nice.
Oh, this is a stud.
That
So
was
this
that was an invitational, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Veterans
Top
Top
Shot.
Shot
Yep.
Invitational.
Yep.
Looking in my mailbox, and
You didn't get an invitation?
didn't get an invitation. I don't know. I mean,
We didn't even really
get
either.
out there.
Toby
So it
asked
was-
us.
I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't. I was busy. I wouldn't have gone.
So it was at Cape Gunworks yesterday. As we record this, it was yesterday on the 10th, benefiting Heroes in Transition, which is a 501c3 nonprofit held at Cape Gunworks, hosted by Toby Leary. Goal had a team there consisting of John Green, Mr. Strider over here, the Dalp, and a very good friend of ours,
Dalp.
Justin Pessa. The four of them actually brought home the gold. That not
Yeah, we
only
took-
did
we
John
took a dub for the
apparently,
day.
yeah.
Well, I mean, John's
John's a freaking tech driver anyway. That guy's nuts.
between him and the Dalp, it's like, who do you want batting cleanup? David Ortiz or Manny Ramirez? And it's like, I don't know, whatever. I'm just gonna
Like, I'm just gonna be here.
I'm gonna shoot for groups and tell you where I held so you can adjust. But no, great event. So yeah, Heroes and Transitions and Big Nick's Ride for the Forgotten, which
yeah.
is a charity that is run by actually Rep Stephen Exaros.
Oh yes.
Yeah, his son was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps and lost his life overseas in Afghanistan. And it's part of the whole charity thing that they do. They raise a ton of money.
Yeah.
And Rep Exaros is just a great guy. So we exchanged some information, and hopefully we'll get him talking about HD 4420 once we get an update on that. But yeah,
So,
it was
You guys
awesome
went
shooting
down there,
competition. We
shot
took
lights out, took
the dub.
home the trophy, and John Green was the top scoring.
That's awesome.
Individual.
And I love Toby.
Of course.
He's great.
He's-
I like what they got going over there. I need to make it out there. I've never made it out there, but I will one day.
Toby's a great dude. He is. Let me tell you, he had. First off, thank you for giving the video for the Freedom Rally. That was an awesome video.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
I wish I
appreciate it.
could have been there. I really did, and I was bummed that I couldn't. But
Well, you
Sorry.
were missed, but you were with us in spirit, and everything went over really well. It was a great event. Toby brought the roof down, but yeah, no, he's a good dude.
Yeah,
I like Cape Gunworks.
Great
Sooner
shot.
or later, I'm gonna, when I win the lottery, I'm gonna go down there and buy that shotgun.
Yeah, he asked us at the event why Goal didn't have a team in it. So John did the sign up, listed us up as team goalies.
You know where that came from?
Yes,
too,
I do.
Don't you? The goalies.
The goalies.
The goalies.
And yeah, John's a stud. Like he's
That dude, yeah, he just
very calm, just walks up and just dusting targets.
pow. Yeah.
We can't start talking about this. It's going to get sloppy, John's a great guy. I love John, and we just leave it at that,
We all love John. Everybody.
Everything's
loves
like a picnic with John. I just want you to picture a red and white picnic tablecloth, and it's all just a picnic with John. I love it. And John's great. I love John. And I can't wait to hang out with all you guys again.
Oh yeah, come on up.
Well,
Let's
if you make it up,
happen.
we'll take a ride out to Cape Gunworks. You'll get the proper tour there. We'll get some trigger time in.
I like it.
Make it happen.
Let's
Oh,
do it.
absolutely.
Is there anything you want to add, John? Anything you have going on that you want to plug or?
Nothing other than, Massachusetts and gun owners across the country. I'm here for you. If you've got something going on, if there's something that needs to be reported on, I want to hear about it, and I want you to reach out to me. So you can email me at john@thepenpatriot.com. My website you can go to is thepenpatriot.com. You can learn all about me. You can learn all about my book, Decoding Firearms. I'm on the different social medias out there. Facebook, The Pen Patriot. Instagram is J Petrolino III. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, is John Petrolino. And then Linktree, I mentioned that earlier. I have a Linktree. You can subscribe to that too, and you'll get notifications. And that's linktr. It's like linktr.ee. It's really weird. / J Petrolino III. But if you go over to my website or my Facebook, you could probably find me. But again, if you have a story, you've got something going on, I want to hear about it. John@thepenpatriot.com. And I'll get you whatever exposure we can if there's a story there or something that needs to be reported on. I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell. And there's a lot of stories that need to be told out there. And I'm happy to tell them if I can.
John Petrolino, the man. It was great to meet you last year. I've been following you for a long time. Thank you for coming on here. This is awesome. When you're up here, maybe we'll have you come down. You can visit the Gold Podcast World Headquarters and broadcasting complex right here in my basement.
I look forward to it very much so, and I really appreciate the invite for getting a chance to participate in this. And hang in there, Massachusetts. Keep fighting, because don't take the pressure off. Keep on these guys. Keep writing your legislators. Be respectful. Be nice, but be firm. Tell them specifically what these laws would do to you. Don't send them a form letter. Don't send them any of that. Tell them what these laws will do to you. Send them snail mail, email, fax, owls, pigeons, everything that you got. They love comments on their social media. I heard that from somebody. So comment on all of their social media.
Yep.
They want to hear from you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. The Pen Patriot, John Petrolino, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to the Goal Podcast and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Gun Owners Action League, or on Twitter at Goal Update.
To join Goal, visit goal.org and click the Join Renew button on the top of the homepage.
If you have a topic you think we should cover, if there's something going on in your club or your town, or if you have a question for the mailbag, shoot us an email at goalpodcast@goal.org.
And your favorite part? The Goal Podcast is a production of Gun Owners
Say it, John,
Action
say
League
it,
of
John.
Massachusetts.
Go for it, John. The views and opinions.
The views expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of Gun Owners Action League or their affiliates or anybody else or all that. But, whatever.
Well done. Well done. Well done. Thank you.
I'm listening to Bear in Arms right now, and Cam Edwards just said John Petrolino is a talented writer, and I'm like, oh my God, I know him. I don't give you enough respect as a journalist, Johnny. I keep thinking that you're just some jerk I know.